My daughter came home in tears after being invited to a Christmas gathering at her grandparents' house. She was visibly distressed and silently handed me a wrapped gift. "Mom, look at this, why do I have to go through this?" she exclaimed. I was at a loss for words. When I unwrapped the gift, I was horrified to find something completely inappropriate for a child. Alarmed, I reported the incident to the police, which led to significant fallout for the person responsible for the gift. The incident ignited a wave of family drama, and the individual behind the gift faced severe repercussions. At 45, with a younger husband who worked at the same company, I had embarked on a new career path at 34 after a hurtful comment from a previous employer. My current workplace values talent over age or gender, and my husband, who was also my supervisor at the time, provided immense support. We quickly got married and welcomed our 4th-grade daughter into the world, a gentle soul who loves reading and shows kindness to everyone. However, my relationship with my sister-in-law remains strained. While I get along well with my in-laws, she has always disapproved of me for being older than my husband and often mocks our rapid marriage. Her hurtful remarks about my age and the changes in my body after pregnancy stung, but I tried to rise above it for my own peace of mind. Her attitude shifted only when she had a hasty wedding and moved away, which reduced our interactions and spared me from her taunts. This change allowed me to focus on embracing motherhood. The challenges of childbirth were daunting, but the arrival of our daughter was a joyous milestone in our lives, free from the negativity that had once overshadowed our happiness. My husband's unwavering support and encouraging words were vital during the birth. When our daughter first cried in the delivery room, the gratitude and pride in my husband's eyes brought us both to tears. Yet, just 5 months later, my sister-in-law gave birth to a son and resumed her visits to our home. Each visit lasted an hour, and her purpose seemed to be to make unfavorable comparisons between our children and to belittle me about my age, suggesting my daughter's supposed wrinkles contrasted with the smooth skin of her child. I was astounded by her audacity during these visits. She would come empty-handed, not bringing any baby essentials, and leave with diapers and formula, claiming she didn't want to run out. It felt like her primary motivation was to insult me while taking supplies as if it were her right. Thankfully, her visits stopped when her husband's job required them to move to another state, granting us a brief period of peace until our daughter started elementary school and discovered her cousin was enrolled as well. Despite our complicated family dynamics, our daughter and her cousin developed a close friendship. She, being older and kind, took care of him, and he became quite popular among his peers. By 3rd grade, they were in the same class, and my daughter received recognition for a summer project that was even published in the local newspaper. This achievement sparked conversations among family members, especially during a gathering at my in-laws' house. Many relatives seemed to be there to celebrate my daughter's success, but my sister-in-law appeared visibly uncomfortable with the attention our family was receiving. She complained it was unfair, claiming that the celebrated book was meant for her son, despite the truth that the children had agreed to exchange books. After reading both options, they decided together which book report to write, demonstrating a collaborative spirit that my nephew appreciated. This incident highlighted the children's ability to share and support each other, starkly contrasting the conflicts among the adults. My nephew preferred the book my daughter read first, and graciously, she allowed him to choose it. When I recounted this story, my sister-in-law falsely accused me of writing the award-winning reflection for my daughter, perhaps recalling my love for writing novels during college, a fact she likely learned from my husband. Unbeknownst to me, she was also spreading malicious rumors at the school, insinuating that I had unfairly used personal connections with the competition judges to advantage my daughter's submission. The spread of these baseless accusations devastated my daughter to the point where she lost interest in her once beloved pastime of reading. This was the final straw for me. I couldn't stand to see her so heartbroken, not just because of the false allegations aimed at me but because she had become a victim of cruel gossip. Before taking any action, I confided in my husband about the extent of his sister's unkindness toward me since our marriage. This included her taking clothes meant for our daughter, claiming that infants couldn't discern gender-specific attire, and her derogatory comments about my appearance during pregnancy, comparing me to a sumo wrestler. Outraged by his sister's behavior, my husband agreed it was time to involve his parents, insisting on addressing the issue personally. Together, they confronted my sister-in-law at her home. Her initial delight at the surprise visit quickly turned to shock as she faced my husband's stern reprimand. Rather than taking responsibility, she directed her anger at me, accusing me of betraying her to her brother and casting herself as the victim. Initially, I answered her phone calls, hoping for reconciliation, only to realize she was merely venting her frustrations. Eventually, I set her number to go directly to voicemail, effectively ignoring her attempts to reach me. The calls dwindled after a few weeks, which I initially attributed to her losing interest. However, it soon became clear that wasn't the case. In December, my in-laws organized a children's Christmas party for the first time, which made me curious about the timing. Despite my reservations, my daughter was thrilled to be invited. She fondly recalled the joyous Christmas celebrations from her kindergarten days and hoped for a similar experience at her elementary school. though, unfortunately, their policy on religious events meant there would be no such festivities. I often ponder the necessity of strict adherence to religious traditions, especially when Christmas has evolved into a universally cherished holiday celebrated in various ways around the globe. It's particularly striking to me how some parents seem adamant about preserving the holiday's religious connotations. For the past 2 years, my daughter and I have chosen to celebrate Christmas quietly at home, embracing the festive spirit in our own way. The highlight of our celebration has always been the gift exchange, which my daughter enjoys immensely. This year, my in-laws suggested a modest budget of $11 for the gift exchange at their Christmas party. Excited, my daughter and I ventured to a nearby shopping mall in search of the perfect present. Ultimately, she decided on one of her beloved picture books, eager to share its story and the joy it brought her with someone else. On the day of the party, she set off with her gift in hand, taking a short bus ride to my in-laws' house. After informing my mother-in-law of her arrival, she kindly offered to pick her up from the bus stop. Later, a call from her reassured me that she had arrived safely, allowing me to temporarily set aside my worries. However, my peace was short-lived. Just 50 minutes later, the unexpected sound of the front door opening on a weekday jolted me. My husband was at work, and I was home working remotely during my daughter's winter break. When I opened the door, my heart sank at the sight of my daughter sitting by the entrance, tears streaming down her face. She handed me a gift-wrapped bag, and her expression told me that the contents would reveal everything. Inside, I found a newspaper with her reading reflection shredded to pieces, alongside a menacing card scrawled in red ink that warned against arrogance, threatening that we could end up like the mutilated stuffed animal also in the bag, which was disfigured and stained with red ink to mimic blood. This chilling display was anything but a harmless prank. My daughter revealed that this horrific gift had come from my sister-in-law, a revelation that left me stunned. The party was meant to be a joyous occasion centered around children, with an agreement among the adults to refrain from personally preparing gifts. Yet, despite not having accompanied my daughter to the party, the atmosphere had taken a dark turn. I was shocked to discover that my sister-in-law was present at the party and had committed such a heinous act against my daughter. If my mother-in-law had known her daughter would be there, she surely would have warned me, as she always insisted that we communicate any issues arising from her daughter's behavior. This breach of trust left me disheartened, highlighting a deliberate attempt to cause us harm. After my daughter returned home upset, I reminded her to inform her grandmother about the incident. However, before she could do so, my aunt intervened, claiming she hadn't called for her and that only children associated with missionary schools were welcome. My daughter, puzzled, asked what a missionary school was, and I found myself at a loss for words. Recently, a relative had been accepted into a missionary school, which had sparked much discussion in the family. My sister-in-law's son attended a missionary kindergarten, and we had heard stories of relatives who were unaware they were connected to such schools until it was time for enrollment. We had made a different choice for our daughter, opting for a local kindergarten and public elementary school. It felt as though my sister-in-law was seizing yet another opportunity to belittle my daughter. Distressed by the threatening gift my daughter received, I rushed to the police station to emphasize the seriousness of the situation. The officers were initially hesitant to intervene, suggesting it was a family matter. Thankfully, a female officer recognized the gravity of the threat and confirmed that threats and violence within families are indeed reportable offenses. She empathized with our fear and promptly promised to visit my sister-in-law with a warning. That evening, when my husband came home, I shared the day's events with him. Outraged, he condemned his sister's spiteful actions and immediately contacted his parents, who were hosting the Christmas party but claimed ignorance of the incident. They speculated that my sister-in-law might have slipped in through an unlocked back door while my mother-in-law was busy attending to other guests. The party had been left in the hands of the younger family members. Following the police officer's stern warning, my in-laws, disturbed by the possibility of criminal behavior, organized a family meeting to discuss the matter. During the meeting at my in-laws' house, my sister-in-law and her husband arrived late. She looked visibly displeased and unrepentant about the police involvement, while her husband seemed unaware of the meeting's purpose. This situation underscored the seriousness of the issue, prompting a collective family discussion on how to address the underlying tensions. When my sister-in-law's husband finally learned of her actions towards our family, his shock was palpable. He had been completely oblivious to the extent of the situation until that moment. He offered his apologies to us, appearing genuinely remorseful, a stark contrast to my sister-in-law, who remained defiant and unapologetic. Her belief that the lack of arrest by the police indicated her innocence left everyone speechless, highlighting a level of denial that was difficult for us to comprehend. In an unexpected turn of events, her husband announced his decision to divorce her. This revelation stunned us all, as there had been no outward signs of trouble in their marriage. He explained that he had endured her behavior for years, which had escalated from neglecting household duties and childcare to instilling fear through her recklessness. Her obsession with appearances had led to multiple unnecessary relocations, each driven by vanity and a desire to maintain a certain social status rather than actual job requirements. Their moves had often been justified by her ambitions for their son, like attempting to enroll him in prestigious kindergartens, which ended in disappointment and further embarrassment. Eventually, they settled for a public elementary school, a choice made by their son, with his father's support against his wife's initial reluctance. The husband's decision to divorce was not sudden. It was the culmination of years of frustration, now hastened by her recent harassment. Caught off guard by the announcement, my sister-in-law made a feeble attempt at an apology, seemingly desperate to reverse the situation by claiming her actions were merely jokes or pranks. However, the seriousness of her behavior, especially the hostile message intended for a child, went far beyond what could be dismissed as humor. Such actions, capable of instilling fear even in adults, were indefensible and exposed the irreparable breach of trust within the family. I confronted her, emphasizing the chasm between her actions and the instincts of a nurturing parent. Just because you're a parent doesn't automatically grant you parental instincts, I pointed out, suggesting that her behavior was far from what one would expect from someone in that role. My husband, witnessing our daughter's tears, firmly told her that crying wouldn't solve the problem. At your age, you shouldn't expect sympathy to absolve you of your actions. Yet, she continued to weep, denying any wrongdoing and questioning why she was being singled out for blame. She even suggested that the family's disapproval stemmed from my marriage to her brother, implying that my age was the issue rather than her behavior. Her lack of understanding regarding the severity of her actions left us all speechless, and my husband was particularly taken aback by her inability to grasp the situation. With the atmosphere thick with unresolved tension, the discussion abruptly came to a standstill, and her husband had no choice but to escort her home. As their divorce proceedings unfolded, they were marred by her refusal to acknowledge her faults. It was only her son's innocent comments about the Christmas party that tipped the scales, leading her to reluctantly agree to the divorce. Without any ill intent, he recounted the unsettling gift exchange to his classmates, vividly describing the disturbing image of a stuffed animal mangled and stained with red, resembling blood. This confession quickly circulated among the school community, raising alarm among teachers and parents alike. After this revelation, my daughter struggled to return to school, her spirit dampened by the incident and the gossip that tied her to her cousin's troubling story. The connection between her absence and the events of the Christmas party became a subject of speculation, highlighting how one thoughtless act can ripple through the lives of those involved. I had hoped the situation could be quietly resolved, allowing my daughter to return to school when she felt ready. Her cousin's intention in sharing his distressing experience was not to entertain but rather to plead for an end to his mother's harmful behavior. Witnessing the fallout from these revelations, her husband felt compelled to expedite the divorce proceedings, accepting her terms simply to finalize their separation. By that time, she had gained notoriety in the community for her menacing behavior towards children, leading to her being ostracized and even facing hostility from neighbors. Feeling trapped and vilified, she saw the divorce as an escape, imagining that returning to her parental home would bring her comfort. However, her estranged husband remained firm about retaining custody of their son, a decision she accepted without much resistance, coldly stating her indifference toward her child as she planned to remarry, claiming that children were an inconvenience. Her cruel words were met with her son's brave rejection. He expressed that he needed no part of her life, finding solace in his father's care and warning her against approaching his cousin. Her situation worsened upon returning to her parents' home, where she was denied entry, forcing her to face the consequences of her actions alone. Her downward spiral led her into precarious situations to meet her basic needs, accumulating debt from unsavory sources, and eventually, she vanished from our lives. My husband and his parents chose not to pursue a missing persons report, accepting her absence as a resolution. In the aftermath, my daughter regained her confidence to attend school, where her cousin continued to be a supportive presence, promising to look out for her. This challenging period unexpectedly strengthened the bond between our families, especially with my former brother-in-law. As we united in support of the children, my in-laws wholeheartedly embraced both grandchildren, stepping in to provide care and support in the absence of my sister-in-law. With her out of the picture, our family found peace and developed a strong, trusting relationship free from previous tensions.